Hey guys, my name is Fallen Messiah. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. I'm a video game content creator with a special focus on Warcraft and Diablo games. So just a quick context about me, Warcraft 3 is my favorite game of all time. I must have at this point tens of thousands of hours into it. It was a part of every system I ever owned, and it's something that's extremely dear to my heart and I'm very passionate about it. So now I will be reacting to WTii's Warcraft 3 Reforged 5 years later video. WTii is one of my favorite Warcraft creators. He manages to make these videos that talk about random issues that plague the game in a fun and engaging way. So this is actually one of my favorite series on YouTube at the moment. So we're gonna jump straight to it. I'm gonna do a live reaction. And also just as a side note, I have decided to only leave the part of the video that I directly reacted to, because otherwise it would have been an hour long. And I think you guys are definitely going to see the original video before this one either way, so there's no need to rewatch the full video with me. If you want to see more of this kind of content in the future, please consider subscribing. It's free and it really helps a small channel like mine. Anyway, let's get straight to it.
I'm Holly Longdale, the executive producer for World of Warcraft. Alongside Hearthstone, Warcraft Rumble, and the Warcraft real-time strategy games,
I have just one thing to say about this. They're trying really hard to shoe in Hearthstone as part of a Warcraft franchise. I never saw it like that. I don't consider it to be a part of Warcraft franchise. Like, yeah, okay, I get the RTS, I get World of Warcraft, but Hearthstone, to me, is a bit of a stretch. But that's just my opinion.
After I qualified for the tournament, someone came up to me, gave me his card, and was like, "Hey, we're looking for experienced RTS players to join our design team." Naturally, I said I wasn't interested.
Yeah, imagine if it just ended right there. That's funny.
Available now, this patch overhauls the environments and lighting and revamps the user interface. In addition, we are up-resing all classic Warcraft 3 assets to HD. You can now customize the type of assets you want to play with and even mix and match if you like.
Yeah, so just a couple of points here. First of all, I really like what they did with the Reforged terrain finally in patch 2.0. They really improved massively upon it. It was a hot mess before, but now with 2.0, the Reforged terrain actually kind of looks good. I even use it sometimes. Classic HD graphics with Reforged terrain actually seems pretty nice. And also the ability to customize this, like Classic HD and Reforged, I'm a big fan of that. The more options people have, the better, generally speaking.
The video game art used to represent Warcraft 3 on the Battle.net client, YouTube, and Twitch was updated to attract both nostalgic and new players alike. If they think Arthas looks like Chris Hemsworth, then sure? Close enough. But already this brought controversy as people soon began to notice that something...
Okay, I have to talk about this. So, what happened is, this is a fake picture that doesn't exist in the actual game. It's like they knew this is what players really wanted, this is how the game should really look like, and then they put this as a promo art, but this look isn't in the actual game. This was just bait. It's straight up bait, and honestly, it's not acceptable. I can't help but wonder, if they really know what players want to see, why can't we 5 years later simply get that from Blizzard? Like, there's this Reforged graphics, there's this classic HD and all else, but why can't we get that? Why isn't this the true Reforged graphics? Regular models, just upscale, just HD. Classic HD is okay and it looks nice, but it's still low res compared to something like this. This is what people want to see. I just don't understand how we got to this point where we still have these kind of conversations. So they straight up made up an art that looks like something players want to play, but it doesn't exist in the actual game. I just cannot believe it. It's such a goddamn bait, and it still makes me really mad. Anyway, I actually have my first reaction on the patch 2.0. When the news broke out, you can see it here or here, where I talk about this very topic as well.
This idealistic version of a graphical update for Warcraft 3 upset fans as it...
I will say this concept looks so good. This Barracks, so good. This Dreadlord, I just still can't understand why we didn't get that. Oh well.
Blizzard up-res the classic Warcraft 3 user interface, including the many icons that you know and love, and butchered them. Artificial intelligence software, AI, was used to upgrade the low-resolution classic icons and make them sharper for the new classic HD look.
I cannot still believe that they actually did that. Like, people wouldn't notice. I know the Warcraft team is much smaller now, but this is just not acceptable. Like, of course people are going to notice. We have played this game for 20 plus something years by now, and you just can't get away with something like this. What is this god-awful greenish hue? It's just not acceptable. I can't believe they actually went with it. It boggles the mind, really.
What if I take the original icon and I bring it to a free online AI image upscale? What's the result? And it's this. This costs 0 cents, maybe a minute, and it's a lot cleaner. There's still some issues. Hive Workshop saw this and they said, hey Neo, I saw what you did. I put together new icons. In 2 minutes, is this. This is great. And this is for free. This is what is possible.
Yeah, I mean, he is right. I don't think this design is super good, don't get me wrong. It's definitely better than what they went with for patch 2.0. This is just not acceptable. Look at how awful this is. How awful it looks like. They really think that we wouldn't notice this patch job? Ugh. Yeah, this is clearly better, but this still, of course, has a lot of rooms to improve on.
On the bright side, Blizzard saw the community's response and acted quickly, removing the unsightly green hues from the command card and improving the overall quality.
I have to comment on this green hue again. How could they possibly do this? Like, this looks like ass. This is horrible. This is just not acceptable at all. One silver lining, they are quick to react nowadays. From the patch 2.0 to today, they really reacted on certain things in lightning speed, fixing up as soon as possible. I have to appreciate that, you know. Credit where credit is due, they really did fix up some of that bullshit very quickly. How do they even think they can actually release something like that? It's just beyond me.
This new added section gives players the ability to customize the Reforged graphics to suit their preferences by switching between Reforged and...
Yeah, so basically, you know, the terrain is definitely better now in patch 2.0. Before, it was a hot mess. I really love the way that you can toggle between Classic and Reforged now. So giving players more options to toggle things the way they want and their preferences, you know, I'm always in favor of that. Even though I just wish that the Reforged graphics were actually the ones they use in the concept art or promo art, not what we got today. Actually, I will use this opportunity. I have another video that I'm going to show on the screen right now, where I dissected every single model in Reforged Warcraft 3 and I compared it to their originals. So if you're interested in something like that, check it out.
Classic HD assets. Don't worry though, the original classic graphics are still untouched. Just flip the switch away from Reforged. As you know by now, patch 2.0 tinkers with the Reforged visual environments and lighting, so the bloom is removed, the tone map updated, and the ambient lighting has been increased to improve the overall color balance for modern standards. Why does Arthur's look black?
The light is my strength.
You don't understand, WTii. Blizzard doesn't see color. Ah, look at this face, man.
Too much light.
Don't worry, son. We'll find them and bring them home safe.
Warcraft 3 in 2024.
Let's get moving.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school. Arthas was black.
Alongside Warcraft 1 and 2 portraits. And whilst the initial launch of Reforged gave us a few skins, including the femme fatales like Lady Death Whisper Death Knight and Female Illidan.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
2.0 opened...
Oh my god. female Illidan and female Death Knight. I don't know. I think they could have done a little bit better than that.
This is by far my favorite thing about patch 2.0. Being able to change into my favorite heroes at a whim is such a simple yet really impactful change for many of us classic enjoyers. And for those that don't enjoy it, there is an option to disable skins for players who only want to see default units. Further touches of nostalgia hit hard when you click the Warcraft.
So skins, one of the best things that Warcraft Reforged ever did. I have to appreciate their efforts in giving everyone these skins for free. They could have easily put it under paywall, but instead they kind of decided to bring some goodwill to the players, and we deserve it after this long. You have to remember that Warcraft Reforged was kind of put on the sidelines for years without any single updates or news. So now that we're finally getting them, I think I appreciate Blizzard's efforts to kind of bridge the gap between developers and players and having these skins for free. So that's a great addition. And they added, I believe, the Jaina and Ghost Keeper of the Grove as well. So that's pretty nice. So yeah, I love playing as Thrall, like on a melee map. I never thought I'd live to see the day where you can see Illidan, Thrall, you know, those kind of iconic characters from the campaign to the actual melee game. It seems like a custom map, but it's not, and it's great. I'm all for it.
If the Frosty 5 is too cool for you, then you can warm things up a bit and switch back to the Reign of Chaos.
I've seen that. I've seen that meme. Is that California fires or... Anyway.
No longer do you need to manually change the text in a notepad file or use a separate website to do that for you. You can now make those changes in-game. Literally, in-game. So
yeah, that's true. That's really huge. Like before, you just couldn't customize hotkeys at all. Now we can do it at a click of a button. And it really went through several iterations of player feedback, but it just proves they were listening to the players. So the final iteration of these hotkeys is actually pretty nice. So I'm kind of impressed at the speed at which they kept changing this until they had something players were satisfied with. So good job with that, Blizzard.
So I don't feel like I have complete control over hotkeys yet. In fact, many of the practical Warcraft 3 buttons, such as quick save, menu, and so forth, cannot be changed yet in the hotkeys. But StarCraft 2 has this option, so for now, I still need to use a third-party tool from decades ago to adapt my hero inventory hotkeys to comfortably enjoy the game. I made a video.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't even consider that, but he's right.
Patch 2.0 brings many quality of life features such as an in-game timer display, useful for speedrunning, objective-based goals.
I can't believe it took Warcraft 24 years for an in-game clock. But yeah, it's finally here. So in-game clock, ping, FPS, all those things are great. So, you know, finally we have those things. So nice.
A gold mine worker counter now displays how many of your employees are digging for gold.
In-game gold mine counter, amazing. Straight out of War 3 Champions. It's a bit distressing when you had like this kind of fan-made sort of client having improvements that are much better than the original game, but now finally it seems that Warcraft is catching up. So this thing on the gold mine that says how many workers you have is so great. One less thing to think about when playing melee games for sure. And also the fact that we can finally see someone's race is long overdue, but a very welcome change nonetheless.
A bonus here would allow us to scale it to 0%, which instead of looking like this, would make it disappear instead, for that fully immersive feel.
Yeah, this is a good change as well. Like, let players have fun with it and customize the things that they want, the way they want the game to look like. You know, always a big in favor of that.
As well as a search filter for custom games to narrow down the list and get in the game fast before it fills. And best of all, one of my favorite features this patch, a search filter has been added when creating a custom game so you can have hundreds of maps in the same folder.
Okay, I have to comment on this. So my map folder has thousands and thousands of maps, old ass maps from 15, 20 years ago. Every time I change a different system, I would copy that folder and carry it over so that I don't lose these maps. So I have a lot of goddamn maps. This right here, the ability to search for a map by name, is a godsend. And once again, I can't believe it took Blizzard this long to implement this, but I'm so grateful they did.
So with this update, Blizzard added the Warcraft 1 and 2 soundtracks as optional music for Warcraft 3.
Okay, the soundtracks are absolute bangers. So actually the first Warcraft game I played was Warcraft 2, and I loved it immediately. So this is such a huge nostalgia for me to have it play that soundtrack while playing Warcraft 3. It's so good. Such a small change, but it just kind of adds to the game as a whole, and I love it. It's changes like these where the players didn't even consider, that as an option. That kind of shows that Blizzard is actually maybe giving a shit after all these years. And also, yeah, they remastered Warcraft 1, they remastered Warcraft 2, and finally, for the first time in 5 years, I actually decided to buy Reforged because it was a part of a battle chest. Warcraft 3, Warcraft 1 remastered, and Warcraft 2 remastered. I ended up buying the whole thing. The first time in 5 years since the Reforged came out. Before that, I played it on my old-ass CD key that I had 20 years ago.
Now, everyone's happy, right? Well, this dilemma raised the old debate of Classic versus Reforged and stoked some drama amongst the community members who would either support...
I hate the Reforged graphics so much for the most part. And once again, you can see my video where I go into every single unit in the game. Although surprisingly, I actually like some Reforged models. Even prefer them to the original. Like, let's say Mountain Giant in Reforged is pretty great. That surprised me as well. But most kind of human and humanoid models, like the peasant and the footman, it's so awful. It's really awful. My takeaway from that video basically was they do a good job with creatures, they do a horrible job with humanoids. Just my 2 cents.
I think the Reforged, the units, portraits, all the assets, the models that were made, there's a lot of work. It was very expensive for Blizzard, so it's hard to discard all of that, delete all of that, and do it again all from scratch. In my opinion, though, that's the only way you can really fix Reforged. If you try to polish the Reforged models we got before, it's not going to work, because you cannot polish a turd.
I think you know where I stand.
I have the exact same quote from Remo Demo on my video. You can't polish a turd. And I tend to agree with him. So my take is simple. People who are behind Reforged models, they actually spent a lot of time and love to create these. A lot of effort and resources went to these models. The problem is not that the models themselves are necessarily bad, even though for some models like peasants, etc., I kind of think they really are objectively bad. The problem is that they're just not the game that we've been playing for the past 20 years. It's not the same game. If you made like a completely new RTS and you use these models, I would be like, hey, pretty cool, right? But the whole point of remaking a game is not to reinvent the wheel. It's to make the same game, the same models, but only improve upon them, slap more polygons onto them, have them be HD, have them be higher res, but keep the integrity of the game the same as it was. You have no right to really completely redesign models that people have loved for the past 20 plus years. That's not for you to do. Your job as someone who is remaking these games is to make them as faithful to the original as possible, respecting the integrity of the original art designers and just improving upon that very successful base. What they did to me is not justifiable. They went a completely different direction. They applied Evolve models from an MMORPG to an RTS game, and they wondered why people had such bad feedback. Well, because it just doesn't work. This is not the game that was designed around these models. And in my video, like, I dissect every single one of these models. Like, for example, for some models, they just added facial hair for no reason. I think Grunt actually has facial hair in the Reforged graphics. Why? Why did you feel the need to add something that wasn't in the original game? That's not for you to do. That is not your job. Simple as that. Like for some others, they actually made them bold when they weren't in the original game. I just cannot understand these design choices. You have to respect the integrity of the original art, and they failed to do that. Those models are not bad by themselves. I think they're actually quite intricate and they look really well on a lot of occasions, but they just don't respect the integrity of the original game art.
The cynical part of me wonders if this patch, as great as it is, was just a means to make the game more marketable for the battle chest to sell the Warcraft bundle, which includes Warcraft 1, 2 and 3. The hopeful part of me wonders if the many quality of life improvements that came with this patch are part of a greater rehaul of the shambles that is Warcraft 3 Reforged, to help remove the stain that might impact on a video game company politically and regain favour with the fans. I have my reservations that we'll get anything that resembles a No Man's Sky redemption arc, but it is reassuring to know that many of these changes are in response to community feedback. So for once, it feels like the Blizzard developers are listening and appear keen to implement more quality of life features so that those that still enjoy Warcraft 3 to this day can continue to do so for years to come. The Blizzard
Yeah, exactly. Are they gonna really bother too much with Warcraft to make it as good as it can be? I am not sure about that. Nobody can really say, but I've always hoped that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft would ultimately mean some good things for Warcraft, because they did have this tendency to kind of give some love to the old games. Microsoft, I mean. So I was hopeful. And just like VT said, like, they actually do listen to player feedback and they act upon it fairly quickly. This does give me some hope that this game is going to continue to be improved and not be left on a back burner somewhere for years and years on end, like it was. With that being said, I don't think Blizzard is ready or willing to commit more resources that would take to completely redesign the graphics to be truly faithful to the original. I think we're never gonna live to see that, unfortunately. I think they know they fumbled the bag, but they're just not willing to dedicate more resources to kind of really, acknowledge that and make it better. I just don't think that's going to happen. Ideally, we don't have to get rid of all Reforged graphics. So you can have a toggle, like they can remain in World Edit for, map developers. It's never a bad thing to have more resources and more models to play with, but it's just not the same game design.
We were going to do the Warcraft 1 campaign in Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Designer Dave is such a good content creator. I really loved his insight on all of the old maps he was working on in Reign of Chaos. He designed one of the most pivotal maps and stories in the entire Warcraft franchise, the Calling, where Warcraft 3 really splinters, where, Arthas really has his beginnings as the Lich King. Remarkable map, both from the story perspective and from the gameplay perspective, and just hearing his thoughts on it it's a very invaluable perspective. So if any of you are Warcraft 3 fans, you haven't looked into Designer Dave's videos yet, do so.
The StarCraft 2 inspired co-op mission level where up to 2 players team together to escort a wagon to the final destination, completing combat and puzzle challenges along the way. There were even...
Also, I would just like to shout out, I think there is in High Workshop, there is a 2-player campaign. If you ever want to try something like that, I cannot recommend it enough. It's so fun. I used to play it with a mate of mine. So the way it works, like for example, let's say you have 100 food cap, right? It would give each of you 50 food cap to play with. It was really fun, just playing through the original campaign with someone else. I highly recommend the experience.
Brian, as a designer for Blizzard, you've done work on World of Warcraft, you've done a lot of artistic work. You get this chance to go back to Warcraft 3 to work on the art, to make it more current. What's that been like?
I hope you guys like the style we went with. Our original idea was to go in an actually more cartoony, stylized version for Warcraft Remastered, Reforged. We did a lot of tests with characters. We really wanted to get the orc to feel like an orc. After we worked with a little bit of style, a little cartoony, we noticed that a lot of games out there have that similar style. A lot of games are doing that more cartoony look. And so we took a step back. We said, you know what really speaks
That's exactly my reaction. Like, what the fuck are you on about?
Warcraft to us? For me personally, the Mist of Pandaria cinematic with the orc and the human really nailed Warcraft to me. I was like, this is what I believe a orc looks like.
I don't want to sound rude, but your beliefs are not important. Who are you to retroactively change how the game looks like? The absolute goal of it. To me, Warcraft is World of Warcraft. Now, I'm sorry, buddy, but to me it's not, okay?
Necromancers could now summon skeletons without needing a nearby corpse, but the catch is those summoned skeletons would be weaker than their corpse-risen equivalents. Meat wagons could fling corpses to spread blight.
That's interesting. I've seen this idea Blizzard had about not making, skeletons from corpses. Like, I understand the creativity aspect of it, them trying something new. I respect that, but I can't agree with it at all. Corpses are one of the resources the undead race has. And by removing that resource, you just kind of remove what the race is all about. You remove their identity. So I don't agree with that. But plague spreading from necros, from wagons, I think that looks pretty cool. I can definitely be in favor of that.
Sir Hetty Witty, I saw you talking about war.
So just my 2 cents about his question. Should you buy Warcraft Battle Chest? My answer is simple. If you want to see Warcraft 1 and 2 remastered, then yeah, I think you should. I played Warcraft 2 remastered. I think they did a pretty fine job. Lots of quality of life changes, like you can finally actually, make separate groups of units, and you can select 12 as opposed to 9, which makes a huge difference. So yeah, I definitely think you should check that out if this is something you're interested in. If other games don't interest you, you only want the Warcraft 3 experience, then my question is this. Do you have an old CD key laying around? If you do, it's probably not worth it, to be quite honest. If you don't, then yeah, go ahead and buy it, I guess. I did buy it, like I already mentioned. I don't regret it. I think I'm going to make use of these Reforged models for, some custom campaigns, custom maps that support them. So, I'll get some mileage, out of that. But it's still just not enough. There still needs to be more things, in my opinion. But I admit, some portraits and new things they added is actually pretty nice. So ultimately, it's up to you to decide.
Blizzard quality server. Back-breaking work, that is, right there. Look at his head. Look at his head. Oh, Reforged. Reforged! Let me quit. I can't quit.
There is no quitting Reforged. One does not simply quit Reforged.
Reports don't work, by the way. If they did, we wouldn't have the same few people griefing every single game on a daily basis.
Okay, I have a couple of things to say about reports. First of all, that's a lie. Some players, a fairly big minority, I will say, are just absolute cunts. There's no way to say it. No other way to say it. I'm not gonna mince words. Like, I had people telling me to kill myself because I beat them, in a melee game and all of that shit. And I report them, but it does fucking nothing. It does fuck all. Like, they tell me, they literally tell me to kill myself because I beat them. So that's nice, There's so many of these players who just flame people all the time. I know there's one that Grubby plays as well that always tells him, all these nasty kind of things. And he reports it, but nothing comes out of it. Just general, people can get away with so much stupid shit in Warcraft 3, and then even if you report them, it does nothing. Anything from telling me to delete myself to, racist bullshit, nobody cares.
You've taken up Frostmourne at the expense of your comrades' lives.
Mal'Ganis is invisible.
Just as the Dark Lord said you would. You're stronger than I thought.
You waste your breath, Mal'Ganis. I heed only the voice of Frostmourne now.
You hear the...
I mean, it kind of makes sense, like, he only hears the voice of Lich King, so if he already hears voices, maybe he hears voices from other things as well, like Mal'Ganis, Arthas has went full cuckoo, so he can't even see him.
Voice of the Dark Lord. He whispers to you through the blade you wield.
Arthas is hearing voices, alright.
Say, young human, what does the Dark Lord of the Dead tell you now?
He tells me that the time for my vengeance has come.
What? He can't possibly mean to...
It is finished.
He's gone crazy. This makes so much more sense now. 4 versus 3 time.
This is just horrible, man. The fact that people can match 4 versus 3 in Warcraft, I don't think this ever happened in the old game. I don't recall instances of this happening in the old client. It's just so odd.
Today, each of the Warcraft development teams will be sharing what's coming up. Some of it next year, some just a few weeks from now, and some will even be available today.
As you can see, Reforged still has many problems. I know what I'll do. I'll ask that Brad guy about it. Hey Brad, remember when you said...
When something is broken, you fix it. When something is wrong, you make it right. And if things aren't good enough, you make them better.
Yeah, well, I guess you got a busy time ahead then. But there is this one game-breaking issue that affects me and many other AMD users. The frame rate spikes. For some reason, since recent times in Reforged, the frame rate performs poorly, with frequent jutters and frame skips that are not only jarring, but they legitimately affect gameplay by not registering commands during these skips, so you have to do them multiple times. And I get these skips roughly every 4 seconds, all the time during multiplayer ladder games. This makes the game near unplayable, and only the most dedicated chumps like myself have continued to endure this torture. But for any new players wanting to jump on board, this would make the game completely unenjoyable for them.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't really have this issue. I mean, bugs, latency, all of that stuff, that happens from time to time, but not to this frequency. Maybe it's because my CPU is not from AMD, so maybe that's the problem. But yeah, this looks absolutely awful. This is just unplayable.
Thus concludes another year in the Reforged saga. An eventful year to be sure, with lots still to be done. I want to thank you all so much for watching the video.
So that was VT's 5 years of Reforged. Nice, good, insightful video as always from VT, filled with, humor to digest all of the bugs and issues that the game still unfortunately has. I don't really have too much to add other than what I already said during the video. I think the game is in an okay state, still has a lot of issues. It doesn't seem like we're ever gonna get actual Reforged graphics that are true to the original game. I don't think that's ever really gonna happen. So it is what it is. If you enjoyed these kind of videos, again, please consider subscribing. I will try to make more if people are interested in them. That has been all for me today. Thank you for watching and I hope you have a good one.